Hi, I'm Jeff Baumgartner with Light Reading. We're here in Denver at the Cable Next Gen Technologies and Strategies event, the 17th of them. So, and I'm happy to be joined by Clay McCreery with Vecima. So good to see you. I'm glad you're here.
Sure.
This week, you actually made a big announcement. You guys are getting into the virtual CMTS game. You and I talked a little bit about it a couple days ago, but just refresh us on the strategic reasoning, to get into that market and why now is the right time to jump in.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. I think first our investments in the Mac side of a DA architecture go back 7 or 8 years with all the development we've done on the MACPHY side. And of course, there we did a software-based Mac in that environment. And so over the last year or so, we've moved that development, continuing to do the MACPHY development, but taken those capabilities, that software, that feature set, and move it to a virtual CMTS. So basically virtualized server based architecture. So that's sort of been what we're doing.
So you had the ball rolling in that direction already. It's
right.
Just, you're kind of taking it to the next step.
Taking it to the next step, we have a lot of operators. Their migration plans are from a standard integrated CMTS over to a virtual CMTS and to RPD. We have a leadership position on RPD side, and also having the virtual CMTS obviously to pair up with that makes a ton of sense. And some of the ways we're going to differentiate here is really trying to operationalize and make it more simple. We heard a lot this morning talking about how really amazing what they're doing is as part of it, and how hard it is. And part of Vecima's focus could be making it simple and make it simpler.
How are you going to do that?
Well, you could think of just taking all of these complex pieces and through the automation, giving especially the tier 2 and tier 3 category customers.
Here it is, run with it.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. We've done this on MACPHY already, right? If you have a controller, it can sit anywhere in your network, in the cloud, and you can basically put an RMD anywhere in your network, and it just works. Full DOCSIS feature set and works. And so this is really just making sure that the Mac piece of this is in the virtualized domain, sitting in a hub site, and we keep that same ease of use.
Okay. And now we have, at my count, or my estimation, 4 players, right, in this market. So, differentiating is going to be important. So talk a little bit about how you're going to do that, but also what the level of operator activity there is on the virtual CMTS. I mean, we know Comcast is well down the path. Charter's doing it. Some other operators are getting into it, but there's still a lot of operators out there that have not announced their plans. So I just want to get you to kind of size up where the market is right now.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think the reason for the announcement now, because we're really not planning to be in field trials until the end of the year.
Okay.
The reason for the announcement now is just to make sure we're part of all those conversations. We already sort of, under NDA had spoken to a number of MSOs and have been engaged with them, but we're really going to amp that up as we go. And I think that, calendar 25 is going to be a big year for people making that move. And also, it's really important for us to intersect the introduction of DOCSIS 4.0 with the virtual CMTS. So there's a lot of operators that have their integrated CCAP devices. Those are DOCSIS 3.1. They're going to work well for them there. And the real, the real pressure point is as they start to launch DOCSIS 4.0 RPDs and 1.8 gigahertz nodes and amplifiers, then we need a virtual CMTS that's going to go along with that.
Okay, and right out of the chute, you guys are talking about entering a lab trial with a tier 1 in North America. So I think you kind of addressed a little bit where the direction of the industry is going, but sounds like a good launch point for that heading into 2025. But one quick thing on MACPHY, right? You guys are still in that market. There's still operators doing it.
Yeah.
What segment of the market is gravitating to that last thing?
Yeah. There's dozens of operators that are deploying MACPHY today with us, and they're continuing to deploy new nodes as we go. The segment, I think, of recent that is really the most attraction to it has been in the tier 2 and tier 3 spaces. Operators that have a lot of real estate. They have hub sites. They're sort of built out for a virtual CMTS type of architecture. That architecture is going to work great for them. But for those that have less real estate and want to be able to put the controller 1,000 miles away from where the node is, similar to the way you can deploy fiber today, right? You don't need a virtual CMTS within a latency sort of distance from the node. So MACPHY gives you that flexibility, and so we're seeing operators that have 30 or 40 small towns deploy MACPHY in those towns, and then be able to aggregate all of the control into one head end. One data center.
Well, that kind of speaks to the general optionality on the industry. We're talking about a lot of different paths operators are taking, so something we'll keep an eye on. But it sounds like you got quite a few of those paths covered. So we'll look forward to keeping tabs as things progress. So
it's important to note that it's really all about the software here, right? And where the MAC sits. The node physically itself is 99% identical, whether it's an RPD or an RMD.
Okay.
It sort of doesn't matter. So one day on our manufacturing lines, I could be building one thing, the next day I could be building another. Doesn't matter, it's really about the software that's loading. And the way we're trying to build out the MACPHY virtual CMTS flexibility is an operator might have both in their network. They might have areas of high density where vCMTS makes more sense for them with an RPD, and they might have areas where they want to have MACPHY, and they want to have a unified set of software across.
Okay, so it's and either or, it's not.
And either. It doesn't have to be. It's not a battle. It's whatever makes the most sense. Lets them really invest properly, surgically in their network, the way we'd expect them to do.
All right. Well, it sounds like time kind of remedied the debate. We used to have about remote PHY versus remote MACPHY, and it seems like there's some unification on the approaches, so at least, again, it's optionality. That's the one that's going to win the day.
Optionality is what we want to give.
All right. Well, Clay, hey, thanks. Great to see you again.
Thanks.
All right, take care.
Thanks.